I am here to present a novel, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Great Expectations is a 13th novel by Charles Dickens and his penultimate completed novel that depicts the education of an orphan nicknamed Pip. It is Dickens' second novel after David Copperfield to be fully narrated in the first person. The major genre of Great Expectations by Charles Dickens is Gothic fiction. An event in a novel that relates to this genre is Pip's narration when he is horrified to learn that MAGWITCH is his benefactor, who he formerly thought to be Miss Havisham. Now, we shall see the main characters in the novel. Pip. Pip is a protagonist and narrator in the novel Great Expectations. It is a story about Pip's experiences in life and a coming of age story. Pip is immature, kind, and ambitious throughout parts of Great Expectations. In the end, Pip matures and grows into a gentleman. Miss Havisham. Miss Havisham is a wealthy, eccentric old woman who lives in a manor called Satis House near Pip's village. Abel MAGWITCH. A fearsome criminal, MAGWITCH escapes from prison at the beginning of Great Expectations and terrorizes Pips in the cemetery. Joe Gargery. Pip's brother-in-law, the village blacksmith. Joe stays with his overbearing, abusive wife, known as Mrs. Joe, solely out of love for Pip. Joe's quiet goodness makes him one of the few completely sympathetic characters in Great Expectations. Jagus, the powerful, foreboding lawyer hired by MAGWITCH to supervise Pip's elevation to the upper class. Herbert Pocket. Pip first meets Herbert Pocket in the garden of Satis House when, as a pale young gentleman, Herbert challenges him to a fight. Years later, they meet again in London, and Herbert becomes Pip's best friend and key companion after Pip's elevation to the status of gentleman. Now, we shall see the story in a nutshell. Great Expectations is a story of Pip, an orphan boy adopted by a blacksmith family who has good luck and great expectation and then loses both his luck and expectations. Through this rise and fall, however, Pip learns how to find happiness. He learns the meaning of friendship and the meaning of love, and, of course, becomes a better person for it. The story opens with a narrator Pip who introduces himself and describes a much younger Pip staring at the gravestones of his parents. This tiny, shivering bundle of a boy is suddenly terrified by a man in a prison uniform. The man tells Pip that if he wants to live, he will go down to his house and bring him back some food and a file for the shackle on his leg. As a young child, the orphan Pip lives with his sister and brother-in-law, the village blacksmith. On Christmas Eve, Pip is walking through the marshes when he meets an escaped convict who threatens him into bringing back food and a file to break the leg irons. On Christmas Day, the convict is captured and returned to the prison ships known as the hulls. He never reveals Pip's existence when he is caught and asked how he escaped his irons. Much later, young Pip is sent to entertain Miss Havisham, a wealthy old lady who lives in a mansion known as Satis House. Miss Havisham is a bitter woman who was jilted on her wedding day long ago. She still wears her wedding gown, and the now rotten wedding cake sits atop her dining room table. Her adopted daughter, Estella, is beautiful, and Pip instantly falls in love with her. But Estella is cold and distant. Over time, she softens somewhat toward Pip, but her affection is erratic. She tells him she can never love anyone. Pip is dismissed from Miss Havisham's service and becomes an apprentice to Joe. But Estella has instilled in him a shame in his commonness. He longs to be a gentleman, not a blacksmith. His discontent grows. One day he learns that an anonymous benefactor has left him an enormous sum of money. He is to move to London, where he will be trained to act as a gentleman. A lawyer, Jagus, will oversee his inheritance. Pip is certain his benefactor is Miss Havisham and believes he is being trained as Estella's future husband. Pip's happiness is unfathomable as he moves to London, away from the only family and friends he has ever known. He is educated by Mr. Matthew Pocket and strikes a great friendship with his son Herbert. His wealth and positions changes him, and soon Pip leads a dissipated life full of idleness. On his 24th birthday, Pip learns that his benefactor is not Miss Havisham but the convict from long ago. He realizes he is not meant for Estella, and also that Miss Havisham deliberately let him assume incorrectly. As well, he realizes with shame that he has mistreated his good friend Joe, who was always faithful to him. Though Pip is ashamed of the convict Magwitch, he is grateful and loyal, so he commits himself to protecting Magwitch from the police who are looking for him. His friend Herbert Pocket helps him. Pip's moral education begins. He decides he can no longer accept the convict's money. He becomes compassionate towards Magwitch, realizing the depth of the convict's love for him. He tries to help Magwitch escape, but in the chaos, Magwitch is injured and caught. Magwitch dies, but not before Pip discovers that adopted Estella is Magwitch's daughter and tells Magwitch how lovely she is. Estella marries Pip's enemy Drummle. Miss Havisham dies, but not before repenting of the bitterness that has ruined her life. She leaves a good deal of money to Herbert Pocket at Pip's request in the hope that it will earn her forgiveness. Pip goes to Joe and Biddy, who have married one another since the death of Pip's sister. He atones for his sins against them, then sets off on his own, determined to make things right in his life. The novel ends when he meets Estella after many years. She has left Drummle, who has since died. She is remarried. She and Pip part as friends, and Pip realizes she will always be a part of his life, as surely as all the other memories of his once great expectations.